Hi, my name is Jose Paul Aparisi. I will discuss about the problem understanding. This project requires creating a program that simulates the operation of the toll boat. The main goal is for the program to handle vehicles passing through, determine the correct tool for each vehicle type, and keep track of how much money the boat collects overall. The toll boat simulation is to handle multiple vehicles passing through, meaning the program must be designed to run continuously, allowing the users to input vehicle type until they decide to stop. And analysis one, input handling. The program should repeatedly ask the user what type of vehicles is passing through the toll booth using a loop to continuously accept the inputs. Then sa two, toll calculation. Once the vehicle type is identified, the program will use decision-making structures like FLs or switch case to assign the correct tool for that vehicle. And three, multiple rounds of input. The program must continue accepting vehicles entries until the user chooses to stop, which means a loop like while or do while will be needed to keep the simulation running. Then for accurate output, the program should maintain a running total of all the tools collected. After each vehicle passes or when the simulation ends, it should display the total collected to the user, ensuring that all inputs are properly accounted for. Then that's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Mr. Barina and I'm here with Mr. Alex Valderrama. We will be talking about the algorithm we created to keep the track of vehicle passing through a toll booth and the money collected. The system works with four types of vehicle: the motorcycle, the cars, buses, and trucks. It helps count out how many of each of vehicle type pass by and ups the total money earned. Now, let's proceed on how our algorithm works step by step. Step 1. Siyempre dito mag-execute na yung program. Magsimula na execute. Then step 2, initialize constant for vehicle prices. We set the fixed prices for each vehicle type. As you can see, the motorcycles is for $50, car for $100, buses for $150, truck for $200. Then, proceed na tayo sa step 3, initialize counters. We'll create a counters to track the count for how many motorcycle, cars, buses, and trucks have passed and how much revenue has been collected for each vehicle type. Then, for step 4, initialize batch counter. Set the batch counter to 1 because this will help to track the number of batches of vehicle processed. Then for step 5, display vehicle menu with prices and then show the users a list of vehicle types and their corresponding prices. Dito na yun yung sa from step 2 na initialize natin na prices ng mga vehicle, i-display na yun siya sa step 5. Then, for step 6, this is where the loop structure begins and I let Mr. Alex Valderrama to explain the rest to you.
Okay,
Alex?
thank you, thank you, Mr. Barina. I will now explain the following step, which is step 6. Step 6, loop batch processing. Dito po, pinaprocess po yung batches ng mga vehicles in a loop. Tapos, step 6.1, prompt the user to enter prompt the user to input the number of vehicles in the batch. Dito po, tinatanong naman po yung number ng vehicles in the batch kung gusto niya para ma-process po yon sa current batch na yan. Tapos, 6.2, validate that the number of vehicle is greater than 0. Dapat po, ini-ensure natin siyang greater than 0 para kapag input po yung invalid, magpo-prompt po ulit siya. Kung magpo-prompt po ulit siya na para maging valid yung number na provide. Tapos, step 6.3 for each vehicle in the batch. Dito po, next step po dito, prompt the user to input the type of vehicle from 1 to 4. And dito po, tinatanong yung user kung anong type ng vehicle. Yung 1 po is for motorcycle, 2 naman po is for car, and 3 for bus, and 4 for truck. Tapos next po, sa step 6.3.2, bina-validate naman po natin yung vehicle choice. Dito po, sinisigurado po natin na yung user, nag-enter po siya ng valid number from 1 to 4. Kung hindi naman po valid yung number niyang in-input, uulit po yun na tanong na hanggang sa ma-meet niya po yung 1 to 4 na number. Tapos, sa step 6 naman po, nasunod po 6.3.3, based po sa vehicle type, ina-update niya po yung prospective vehicle count and revenue. Dito po, update yung vehicle count and revenue depende po sa napili nilang vehicle type. Tapos, ini-increase po nito yung count of the type of vehicle, tapos ina-add yung corresponding price for that vehicle type sa total revenue po. Tapos, next naman is step 6.4. Ask if the user wants to process another batch. Pag na-process na po yung unang batch, tatanungin po ulit kung gusto nilang mag-process ng another batch. Kung sagot po ng user is yes, mag-i-increment po yung batch counter, tapos uulit po yung loop. Tapos, kung no naman po yung answer, titigil na po yung loop and matatapos na po yung process niya. Tapos, next step, which is step 7 po, dinidisplay na po nito yung result. Dito po, pagkatapos ng batch mo proseso, i-show naman niya po yung mga information. Halimbawa po ito, total number of motorcycles, tapos total number of cars, buses, trucks. Tapos yung revenue po yung each ng mga vehicle type na yun, yung po yung issue. Tapos, ito naman po yung total number of all vehicles and overall revenue na nakolekta po nila. Tapos, next step po, which is step 8, dito na po yung natatapos yung program. Ayun lang po. Thank you.
Greetings everyone, I'm Agliador here to explain Pseudocode. Start by setting the motorcycle price to 50, car price to 100, buses price to 150, and truck price for 200. Initialize totals for motorcycles, cars, buses, and truck to 0, and set the batch counter to 1. Display a welcome message for Netflix toolbar, prompting the user to select a vehicle type from the option provided. While the user indicates they want another batch, display the current batch number and prompt for the number of vehicles. For each vehicles, prompt the user to enter the type 1 to 4, read their choice, and update the corresponding totals and venue. After processing, ask if they wish to continue with another batch. And I'm calling Mark Christian Amador to explain another part.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Christian Amador, and I'm explaining the revenue calculation and the vehicle counting first. If the user selects one, the motorcycle price is added to the total revenue. And then, the total motorcycle hub pass is incremented by 1. If the user selects 2, means the car price is $100 is added to the total car revenue. And then, the total car hub pass is incremented by 1. Next, if the user selects 3 corresponds to bus, the bus price is $150 is added to the total bus revenue. The total buses hub pass is incremented by 1. Tapos, if a user selects 4, it corresponds to trucks. The truck price is $200 is added to the total truck revenue. And then, the total truck hub pass is incremented by 1. Now, next is, after the user selects all that, it prompts the user, do you want to enter another batch? If the user selects Y, the process continue and and the batch counter incremented by 1. If no, it ends the program and display all the parts. But if the user says yes, entered yes, yeah, lang. if the if the if the total motorcycle zero have passed, then it displays the total pass. If wait lang, if that if any motorcycle pass, the program displays how many pass and the total amount of the total amount collected from the motorcycle. Otherwise, if there's no motorcycle inputted, it says no motorcycle have passed. It's the same with the cars, buses, and trucks. It shows the total amount of the cars and the total amount of the revenue collected, and then if there's none, it displays there's no cars have passed. Then if these two lines of codes right here, these two lines calculate the total number of the vehicle that pass, sum all the vehicle, and the total amount of the money collected from all the vehicle. It means it's the total revenue. Else, if there's nothing, it says no truck have passed, no trucks passed. Then nasa na yan? Ito. It says that for all the ito na pala. After that, it displayed the total After all that, it displayed the total vehicle that passed plus the total revenue of the money collected from all the vehicles in the total amount collected. Yun. After that, the end, it means end the program. Yun lang po. Thank you very much.
Greetings everyone, my name is Jeremiah Van Beato.
And Jomar A. Aquino, and we are here to discuss our flowchart.
Let's take a look to this Talbot program flow. It starts with initializing various variables. First, we have the price for different vehicles. Car, motorcycle $50, car $100, bus $150, and truck $200. Then we also have counter for tracking the number of each type of vehicles that passes and the total revenue of each category.
Uh, and once all the initial values are set, the system asks the attendant if they want to enter the vehicle details for the current batch. And it starts by displaying a welcome message, which is welcome to NLEX to Toll Booth, and ask the user to choose a vehicle type by selecting between the following options. The options are motorcycle, car, bus, and truck.
Once the user selects a vehicle type, the system asks for the number of vehicles of that type in the current batch. The number of vehicles is then added to the respective vehicle counter. For instance, if the user selects motorcycle, option 1, the number of motorcycles is added to the motorcycle pass counter, and the corresponding revenue is updated by multiplying the number of motorcycles with the motorcycle price.
And the same logic applies to cars, buses, and trucks. Cars update the total car pass, counter, and revenue. Buses update the total bus pass, counter, and revenue. Trucks update the total truck pass, counter, and revenue. For every vehicle type, the system increments the appropriate counter and adds the correct amount to the total revenue for that vehicle type.
After processing the batch, the program asks the user, do you want to enter another batch? If the user chooses Y, the system resets the batch counter and asks for the next batch of vehicles. If the user selects no, and the system proceeds to display the total number of vehicles passed for each type, followed by the total revenue collected.
The final output will show total motorcycles that pass, and the total revenue from motorcycles, total cars that pass, and the total revenue from cars, total buses that pass, and the total revenue from buses. And the same sa total trucks that pass and the total revenue from trucks. And finally, it sums up all the vehicles and revenues to display the total number of vehicles and total revenue collected from all vehicle types combined.
That's all for our flowchart. Thank you.
Dangal greetings. I'm Omar and with me is Mr. Hardy. Now we will explain our program code. First, we import buffered reader from the java.io to handle user input efficiently. It ensures we can read and validate input accurately, preventing errors from invalid data. Inside the main class, as we can see, we declared a buffered reader variable named reader, which will be used to handle and read inputs. For the variable that we will mainly use in our program, we declared and initialized it in an orderly way. So as you can see, up next is our constants for vehicle prices. For the vehicle prices, we declared them as constants using the final keyword, since these are fixed values that shouldn't be changed throughout the program. We initialized a variable named another batch. It is a variable to check if the user wants to process another batch of vehicles. Now, this will be used for our main do while loop. It is our main loop for our batches. So, Mr. Hartley will explain later. Counters for the total number of vehicles that pass and the total revenue for each vehicle. Now, in this section of the code, we declare and initialize counters to track the total number of vehicles that have passed through the toll booth and their corresponding revenue. Specifically, we have four integer variables, which are the total motorcycle passed, the total cars passed, total buses passed, and total trucks passed because it is our requirement to do for our toll booth. Next is the double. This serves as our the revenue. We have four again, just like the previous one, because we of course need the vehicle types, which are motorcycle, car, bus, and truck, that have their own respective variable name for revenue. So it is in double because we need of course a a floating decimal point because we are here expecting a value of money, of course. Next is the variable to store the number of vehicles in the current batch, which is int num of vehicles. Now in this section, this will be our um, loop control variable. Now, inside our batch, we will use a for loop, and this will serve as our loop control variable. If the user wants to enter, for example, 5, the loop will request for 5 vehicles. So, vehicle to store the selected vehicle type inside the loop. Now, of course, the vehicle choice, this will serve as our, for example, of course, the user have to select which vehicles will pass in the toll booth. Of course, if there's a motorcycles that want to pass in the toll booth, they have to pay the price for them to pass. So we need to input a vehicle choice. So what type of vehicle will pass in the toll booth? For example, as we can see here in their display, the menu. Welcome to our toll booth. Please select the vehicle type. This instructs the user that they can only choose from between 1 to 4. So here is our corresponding vehicle type, which are allocated to the numbers. For example, here as you can see 1 for motorcycle and its price, which is 50, and the car for number 2, bus for number 3, and truck for number 4. It is of course organized in a based on their based on their price. As we can see, it's in increasing order. So do I look for pricing budgets of vehicles? Now this is our loop for our batch. You can see earlier we declared a batch counter which is equals to one. So this will go in here. So you can see we want to first, of course, inside our do while loop, this will calculate. I mean, this will run um, each batches of the vehicles um, of each vehicle group that wants to pass. For example, if we want to enter five vehicles for one batch, we can do so here. So first, we want to, of course, print the corresponding batch number. Now, of course, as we initialize it, the batch counter is equals to 1. It will display here batch number 1. Now, for our user input, for our num of vehicles, for our loop control variable, we, of course, used here an indefinite loop. Now, that is a while true. Now, inside the while true, we call that the indefinite loop. We use the try catch method, of course, because we are using buffer reader. Side of our try catch, of course, we instruct the user to enter the number of vehicles that they want to calculate. Now, string number of vehicles is equals to reader.read line. Now, we, of course, as you can see here, we finally use our number of vehicles. First, of course, we need a variable for our input. So, buffer reader reads from the console, but first it will need to be put inside the string. So here, as you can see, string number of vehicles. We use the input so that we know that it only reads first from the console equals to reader that read line. Now next is num of vehicles. Now this we will convert our num of vehicles input into integer. Earlier we initialized it as integer num of vehicles. Now as you can see here, the variable num of vehicles was integer that parse int. Now this will convert convert our string input into an integer. So num of vehicles input the string value. Now we need to validate if the number of vehicles is greater than 0. Of course, we only want values greater than 0. Of course, no negatives, no 0. So if our number of vehicles is greater than 0, our indefinite loop will break. And if if it's of course negative or 0, it will we will instruct our user inside the else display of please enter a number greater than 0. If this doesn't work or the inputted a string variable for our, of course we have to use our parse. Now this will if they entered if their input is string, this will go into the catch number format exception E, which is invalid input. We need to instruct them to please enter a valid number because they can input a string here or decimal floating points um, because we only want integer input here, full number integer input. So up next, we will now use our num of vehicles here as our loop control. Now we want to use for loop. For inside, we want to initialize our counter is equals to 1. Counter is less than or equal to our number of vehicles, the inputted number of vehicles that the user want to compute here. And counter plus plus to, of course, work through for to for to for to for, for to start looping. Now for while true, so of course our user input we need to encapsulate it again in a indefinite loop because we want only valid inputs here. So now of course we want the user to see what number are they in the iteration. Now the counter here serves as our iteration number. So number 1, for example, enter the night. So what we mean here is we need to enter the type of vehicle for number 1. So they have to pick between 1 to 4 only. So now, of course, we only need to read it from string choice input, so to read that read line. Then we need to convert into integer, which are vehicle choice that we declared earlier. So vehicle choice equals to integer dot parse int choice input. So of course, we only want an input from one between 1 to 4. So if our vehicle choice is greater than or equal to 1, it is accepted. If if it is and vehicle choice is less than or equal to 4, it will then be accepted. Of course, we only want an input from 1 to 4. It will then break our indefinite loop. Else, we need to instruct our user to please enter a valid vehicle type only from 1 to 4. But then if the input something else, like for example a string and decimal again, this will go in our number format exception. Print invalid input, please enter a number between 1 to 4 only. Now, Mr. Hartley will explain the rest of our for loop computation.
Thank you, Mr. Omar. My name is Hartley, and I'm going to continue the explanation of our program. Okay, the next block of code after the for loop is switch statement. So, meron ditong switch statement na nag-handle ng vehicle choices na pinili ng user. So, sa switch statement na to, yung expression natin na ginagamit is vehicle choice. So, yung vehicle choice, pwede siyang maging 1, 2, 3, or 4. So, saan ba nang gagaling yung vehicle choice? So, dito yan makukuha sa for loop na in-explain ni Omar. Yung vehicle choice, makukuha siya sa pagtatanong ng program ng enter the type of vehicle, 1 to 4. So, pag nag-enter ka ng 1, papasok siya sa case 1. Ang mangyayari dito, meron ditong variable na total motorcycle revenue. Dito nilalagay yung total revenue na makukuha mo sa motorcycle. So, paano mangyayari doon? Ang mangyayari lang, i-add lang yung total motorcycle revenue, i-add natin siya sa motorcycle price, which is 50, na nakalagay dito sa pinakataas ng ating program. Motorcycle price is equals to 50. So, pag nag-input tayo ng 1 dito sa for loop na to, dito siya papasok. So, nag-input tayo ng 1, yung total motorcycle revenue natin magiging 50. Pag nag-input ulit tayo ng 1, yung 50 magiging 100 kasi nag-add tayo. So, ganun na ganun yung mangyayari hanggat 1 yung i-enter mo. So, pagkatapos nun, kung 1 din yung in-enter natin, magkakaroon tayo ng increment sa total motorcycles pass. So, total motorcycles pass plus para matrack natin kung ilan ba yung motorcycles na nag-pass sa ating toll gate. Tulad nga sinabi ko kanina, pag nag-enter tayo ng 1, magi-increment, so magiging 1 to. Enter pa ulit tayo ng 1, magiging 2 to. So, same logic, mag-a-apply din yon sa case 2, case 3, at sa case 4. Ngayon, meron tayong panibagong loop dito, while loop. So, magtatanong tayo sa user kung gusto niya pa ba ng another batch. Do you want to enter another batch? Y/n. So, Y stands for yes, N stands for no. Ngayon, yung loop na to, hindi siya hihinto hanggat hindi valid yung in-input ng user, which is Y or N only. Para mangyari yon, sa loob ng while loop, ng indefinite loop natin, maglalagay tayo ng if statement. If another batch equals ignore case Y or N, ang mangyayari lang dito, Y or N break. So, ang mangyayari, magbe-break yung loop natin pag nag-enter na yung user ng Y or N. Pero kung hindi siya nag-break, please magdi-display siya ng please enter Y for yes or N for no. Ang mangyayari dito, pag hindi tayo nag-enter ng Y or N, syempre dahil loop to, uulit siya. Do you want to enter another batch? Tapos ayun, magtatanong ulit yan hanggat di tayo nag-enter ng Y or N. So, for example, nag-enter na tayo ng Y. Pupunta tayo sa baba. And then meron ditong panibagong if statement. If another batch equals ignore case, Y, so for example, Y in-enter natin, yung batch counter natin is magi-increment. Tapos, yung loop natin na do while is uulit. Kasi, yung do while natin, so, ito yung pinaka, code, do while. Ito yung gagawin ng code, do. Hanggang dito sa baba. Hanggang dito. Gagawin niya ng program while yung another batch natin is equals to Y. So, pag nag-enter tayo ng Y dito, uulit yung code natin mula sa pinakataas, mula sa simula ng do, kasi Y pa rin yung value ng another batch. So, uulit siya dito, pero ang pagbabago niya, yung batch counter, imbis na 1 siya, kasi dito nakalagay, ang value ng batch counter is 1, magiging 2 na siya kapag umulit. Gawa yun ng pag-i-increment natin sa batch counter. So, pag umulit tayo ng umulit, yung batch counter mag-i-increment na mag-i-increment para matrack kung pangilang batch na ba to. So, ganun yung mangyayari. Ngayon, pag n na yung in-enter, pag n na yung in-enter mo dito sa tanong na to, do you want to enter another batch? Pag nag-enter ka ng n, magbe-break, and then yung loop natin is matatapos na din. Kasi, hindi na y yung value ng another batch. So, matatapos na yung loop natin na do while. Pagkatapos nun, magko-compute na tayo ng total number of vehicles tsaka yung total revenue na nakolekta. So, dito muna tayo sa motorcycles. Kapag meron tayo ditong if statement, if total motorcycles pass is greater than 0, so ibig sabihin lang nun kapag 1 or above yung value ng total motorcycles pass natin, papasok siya dito sa code block na yan. So, mag-display siya ng total motorcycles that pass, tapos i-display yung total motorcycles pass na nakuha natin dito sa switch statement natin. So, pag nag-enter ka ng 1, magiging 1 tong motorcycles pass. Tapos dito naman, total motorcycle revenue, nag-enter ka ng 1, magiging 50 yun. Kasi yung value ng motorcycle natin is 50. Pero kung ang value ng total motorcycles pass natin is less than 0, pag 0 siya, ito yung ilalabas ng system natin, no motorcycles pass. And then, ganun din, mag-a-apply din siya sa ibang vehicle, sa cars, sa buses, at saka sa trucks. Ngayon, gagawa tayo ng bagong variable para ma-calculate yung total vehicles na nag-pass sa toll gate, tsaka yung total amount na nakolekta. So, gumawa kami ng total vehicles pass na variable. So, para makuha yung total vehicles na nag-pass sa toll gate, ang gagawin lang natin, ipapag-add natin yung total motorcycles pass, total cars pass, total buses pass, at total trucks pass na variable para makuha yung total vehicles pass. So, ito, nakuha to kanina. Dun lang din sa switch statement natin. So, pag nakuha na yan, papasok yan dito sa total vehicles pass. Tapos, pwede na natin siyang i-display total vehicles that pass. Tapos, concatenate lang natin total vehicles pass. Dito naman sa total amount collected, total revenue na natin na kolekta sa mga sasakyan, ipapag-add lang natin yung total motorcycle revenue, total car revenue, total bus revenue, at saka yung total truck revenue. Tapos, lalagyan natin siya sa variable na total amount collected. Tapos, pwede na natin siyang i-display sa program. So, total amount collected from all vehicles, and then concatenate natin total amount collected. So, that's all for our program code. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Claude S. Alvarez and today I'm going to test and explain our code. This code is a toll booth simulator where the user inputs the type and quantity of vehicles passing through. It calculates and displays the toll revenue collected for each vehicle type in each batch and allows the user to process multiple batches. Going on with the code walkthrough, we got our constants and variables. Constants like this define toll costs for each vehicle type, and variables such as this are used to keep track of total vehicles and revenue. Going on to the menu, we have our menu display here. It's a brief welcome and a menu listing vehicle types and prices. It's displayed at the start. We have our processing batches loop. It's a do while, and this loop allows the user to enter the number of vehicles and type for each vehicle. After each batch, the program asks if the user wants another batch. If they answer Y, it continues the next batch. Otherwise, it exits. If they say N, the batch exits. So let's try the code. Let's try to put something other than the number, or like negative number. Please enter a number. It says please enter the number of 0 or like 1. So for example, we have 2, and the type of vehicle, let's say a car. Invalid input. So if we put 5, it's gonna say please enter a valid vehicle type. So our vehicles are motorcycle, car, bus, and truck. So example, we have this, and another one for another batch is 4. And this is the, do you want to enter another batch? It's only, you can only use yes and no for that. If you type yes, it's only gonna say enter Y and for no. So for example, yes, okay, no. Example Y, batch number 2, enter. It repeats again. You need to put the number of vehicles again. For example, let's say 3. Type of vehicle, so truck and buses, and 2. Want to enter another batch, and if you say N, it's gonna calculate the total revenue of the cars. It's, as you can see, it displayed all the information here: total motorcycle had passed, cars, buses, and trucks. And it's gonna compute all. It said 5, and the total amount collected from all vehicles is $700. So as you can see, the code is working perfectly fine with no errors or errors needed. So that's all. Thank you.